Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What is going on, Bears Nation? And welcome back to Bears Chat Now, the only place where we tell you the truth, we tell it loud, and we tell it with all the bear down energy you deserve. We've got some genuinely exciting news coming out of Hollis Hall right now. And if you've been sleeping on the Chicago Bears defensive line heading into OAS, I need you to wake up, pour yourself a coffee, and get locked in. Because what is happening in Lake Forest right now might just be the most important thing this defense has done since the offseason began. Because here's the deal. The Bears are not going in blind this year. They're not crossing their fingers and hoping it gets better. The coaches looked themselves in the mirror, admitted they dropped the ball, and now they're fixing it from the ground up. And that is exactly the kind of culture shift that turns a good team into a great one. Let's set the stage because context matters here. Last season, the Chicago Bears pass rush was, to put it charitably, a disaster. We ranked 31st in pass rush win rate at just 29%. Let that sink in. 31st. There are 32 teams in the NFL. We were one spot away from being dead last in the entire league at getting to the quarterback. The pressure percentage wasn't any prettier. 29th in the league, and opposing offenses carved this defense up on the ground as a direct result. When you can't get after the quarterback, linebackers are exposed, safeties have to play closer, and suddenly a defense that should be suffocating becomes a sponge. It soaks up yards and it soaks up points, and we saw that last year. We were 29th in rushing yards allowed per game. 29th. That is not a Chicago Bears defense. That is not the identity Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen are trying to build on the lakefront. But here is where the story gets genuinely good, where it gets exciting, where it goes from depressing film study to something that actually makes you believe. Because Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator of your Chicago Bears, stood up in front of everybody this offseason and said something you almost never hear from a coordinator in the NFL. He said it was on him. He said it was his fault. He sat down with his staff, had the hard conversations, and pointed the finger directly at himself for what went wrong. Allen told reporters that when he looks back at the pass rush struggles, it comes back to fundamentals and how they were being taught, and that the coaching staff lost sight of that because they were so consumed with installing the scheme. That totally falls on him, he said. And you know what? That level of accountability is rare. That is not something you see every day in professional football, where coaches protect their reputations and deflect blame down the depth chart. Allen stood up and owned it. And Bears fans, that matters. That is a culture shift. That is exactly what Ben Johnson's organization is supposed to look like. Now, let's pair that with what defensive line coach Jeremy Garrett had to say, because Garrett is the guy in the trenches every single day with these pass rushers, and his message heading into OTE was equally encouraging. Garrett confirmed that as of the first two phases of the offseason program, the defensive line room had not discussed the defensive scheme, different looks, or different fronts at all. Zero scheme talk. The entire focus has been on pass rush fundamentals. Garrett laid out 3 specific goals he has been hammering with his edge rushers: forcing more tackles for loss on run plays to set up longer passing downs, being more consistent in their pass rush technique, and finding a way to affect the quarterback. He said when he watches tape from last year, there is meat on the bone, meaning the talent is there, the opportunity was there, they just weren't executing the fundamentals cleanly enough to cash in on it. And we got even more direct confirmation from the man himself, Austin Booker. Booker told CHGO Bears that the first 2 weeks of optional camp were entirely devoted to technique, body lean, get off, and hand placement, and that the coaching staff has been absolutely hammering those fundamentals before moving into any play-specific installation. That is a seismic shift in philosophy from year 1 of the Dennis Allen era. Last year, they were cramming scheme into players' heads before they had the individual tools sharpened. This year, they are building the foundation first, basics before concepts, technique before scheme. And if you know anything about how dominant pass rushers operate, how a Myles Garrett, a Micah Parsons, a Max Crosby does what they do, you know it is not scheme that makes them great. It is the relentless, repetitive mastery of their craft at the most fundamental level. Get off pad level, hand placement, win at the line, then let the scheme flow. That's what this staff is finally emphasizing, and it's a very, very good sign. Now, let's talk about the players, because the talent on this defensive line is better than people give it credit for. And Montez Sweat deserves to be discussed with considerably more reverence than he typically gets in this city. This man is criminally underappreciated by Bears fans and by the national media. Let me give you the numbers because the numbers are staggering. Sweat finished the 2025 season with 53 total tackles, 10 sacks, 5 passes defensed, and 3 forced fumbles without missing a single regular season game. He had 53 total pressures on the year. That is the same pressure total as Max Crosby, one of the most respected pass rushers on the entire planet. Sweat had more forced fumbles. Actually, he was causing turnovers, disrupting backfields, and carrying this pass rush almost entirely on his own for the first 7 games of the season, when Austin Booker was unavailable. Head coach Ben Johnson said after the 2026 NFL Draft that he believes Sweat had one of his better seasons in the entire NFL last year, calling him a very complete player in both the run game and the pass game. When your own head coach is going out of his way to defend your best pass rusher, that's a player who deserves more flowers from the fan base. And speaking of Austin Booker, let me tell you something about this young man, because he is a legitimate star in the making, and the Bears need to protect him like he's made of gold. When Booker finally returned from injury and got on the field in 2025, he recorded 4.5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, and 29 pressures across just 10 games. 10 games, not 17, 10. You extrapolate those numbers over a full 17G game season, and you're looking at a player on pace for somewhere in the range of 7 to 8 sacks, with 20-plus quarterback hits and nearly 50 pressures. That's a legitimate number 2 edge rusher on a playoff contender. And remember, he's doing this in year 2 of his NFL career, only his first full year in Dennis Allen's system, while still learning the scheme. The ceiling on Austin Booker is genuinely terrifying, and if Dennis Allen can mold him the way he molded Cam Jordan into an all-time Saints great in New Orleans, we could be looking at a cornerstone pass rusher for the next decade right here in Chicago. Keep him off special teams. Keep him healthy. Let him rush the passer on every defensive rep he's healthy enough to take. That's not a debate. That's a necessity. Now, let's be honest about the questions that still exist on this roster, because we don't do blind optimism on this channel. We do informed optimism, and there are legitimate question marks. Dio Odienbo signed a 3-year, $48 million contract last offseason and delivered 1 sack in 8 games before tearing his Achilles tendon. That's a brutal return on investment, and Bears fans have every right to be frustrated. The good news is that Dennis Allen recently confirmed Odienbo will definitely be in the mix at defensive end. When the Bears get to training camp, and at 26 years old, barring any setbacks, he should be able to reclaim a meaningful role along Chicago's defensive line, ahead of Week 1. The question is what version of Dio Odienbo shows up. His best football, 8 sacks in 2023, with Indianapolis, showed a player who can be a legitimate complement to Sweat. If he can get anywhere close to that in a healthy 2026 season, this defensive front starts to look genuinely scary. And then there is Shemar Turner, the second-round pick from Texas A&M, who is perhaps the most intriguing wild card on this entire roster. The Bears envision Turner as a player who can line up at end on 1st and 2nd down before moving inside to rush the passer on 3rd downs, an inside-outside chess piece that would give Dennis Allen tremendous flexibility and unpredictability on his defensive front. Turner also comes off a torn ACL suffered early in his rookie year. So, we genuinely don't know what kind of player he is yet at this level, but the athletic traits that made him a high draft pick are real. And if he emerges as even a competent third option in this rotation, the Bears' defensive line suddenly looks a lot more complete. The interior of this defensive line has its own story as well. Grady Jarrett is the captain and the veteran leader of this unit, a guy who knows how to set the tone in a locker room and who plays with the kind of professional standard that young players need to learn from every single day. He had 21 pressures and 8 quarterback hits in a season shortened by injury. At 33 years old, Jarrett is entering the final chapter of his NFL career, and the Bears need to get as much as they can from him this season while also having a plan for what comes next. Gervon Dexter Sr. had 17 pressures in 2025, which led all Bears interior linemen, but that number needs to jump dramatically if this defense is going to reach its potential. And Gervon Dexter, whose 2025 season showed flashes of real pass rushing ability with 6 sacks and 39 pressures, gives this team legitimate depth on the interior that many people overlook. The new additions that Dennis Allen specifically brought in deserve a mention too. Kentavius Street played in this scheme with the Atlanta Falcons, knows the calls, knows the alignments, and won't have a learning curve going into year 1. James Lynch spent time with the Vikings and the Titans, knows the NFC North, and had back-to-back dominant college seasons at Baylor before the injuries slowed his NFL development. And 6th-round draft pick Jordan Vandenberg out of Georgia Tech was personally coveted by Dennis Allen, who called him athletic, powerful, smart, tough, and highly competitive. Those aren't throwaway words from a coordinator. When Dennis Allen starts talking about a late-round pick with that kind of specificity, he sees something there. And these are Dennis Allen's guys. He wanted them. He knows what they can do in his system. There's something to be said for a coordinator who gets to build the rotation himself. The door also remains open for additional help to walk through it before training camp. Names like Joey Bosa have been floated as potential additions who would make immediate sense given the Bears' need opposite Montez Sweat. And while nothing has materialized yet, the Bears front office has shown a willingness to be opportunistic when the right deal presents itself. Von Miller has been linked to the team. Cam Jordan, who Dennis Allen developed during his Saints tenure, remains a possibility. The Bears are not panicking, but they are not closing the door either. And if the right veteran pass rusher becomes available at the right price before September, don't be surprised if Ryan Plez makes that call. Here is the bottom line, Bears Nation. The 2025 defensive line was disappointing. The numbers don't lie. The pressure rates were unacceptable. The pass rush win rate was embarrassing. But what's happening right now at Hollis Hall is something genuinely different. You have a defensive coordinator who publicly owned his failures and restructured his entire approach. You have a defensive line coach who is stripping the operation down to pure fundamentals and refusing to move on until those fundamentals are locked in. You have Montez Sweat entering his prime as an elite-level pass rusher who deserves a proper running mate. You have Austin Booker trending towards stardom. You have two injured edge rushers in Odeyingbo and Turner who, if healthy, add legitimate depth. You have cheap scheme-ready additions who know exactly what Dennis Allen wants from them. And you have a first-round safety in Dylan Thiemann and a completely revamped back seven that is going to create more manageable situations for this pass rush to win. The pieces are moving. The culture is shifting, and this defensive line, which was supposed to be the biggest liability on the roster, might just surprise every single person who wrote them off this offseason. Bear down, baby. We're just getting started. And that is going to do it for today's episode of Bears Chat. Now, if you made it this far, you already know what time it is. Go ahead and smash that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this channel more than you know. Drop a comment down below and tell me, do you think this Bears' defensive line is going to be better in 2026? Are you riding with the core four of Sweat, Booker, Oding, Bebo, and Turner? Or do you think Ryan Plez still needs to make a move? Let me know. And if you are not yet subscribed to Bears Chat Now, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss a single Bears update all the way through training camp, pre-ASIN, and into the regular season. Share this video with another Bears fan who needs to hear the good news coming out of Hollis Hall. We are building something here on the channel and on the field. Bear down, Chicago. Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.